You're listening to a Bespoken Media production.
It's the feel-good factor. I've never been into gardening ever. I feel that it's given me my life back.
Welcome to New Frontiers, brought to you by Scotland's Veterans Wellbeing Alliance. I'm Hannah Uttley.
And I'm Richard Henderson.
New Frontiers is a podcast that shines a light on the amazing charities across Scotland that are supporting veterans and their families to thrive in Civvy Street. I suppose we better say a wee bit about who we are then.
Indeed.
So I'm Hannah. I am a community theatre artist. I work a lot with a charity called Stand Easy, and we run theatre projects for veterans and their families. And I'm also the partner of a veteran. My partner was in the Royal Signals.
And I'm Richard. I've got my own company called RFH Solutions. And what I look at doing is going around the whole of Scotland, looking to help charities and organisations find funding, help grow the alliance and make sure that we can get the right support to the right people and make it as easy as possible. 36 years ago, showing my age now, I spent some time in the reserves.
Never 36 years ago.
Flattery gets you everywhere.
So, what are we talking about in the first episode?
So, in this beautiful building where we are today, we're in the Wilford Owen Suite up at Napier Craiglocker. And in the first episode, we're focusing on mental health. A little bit later, we'll be taking a trip to the Linburn Walled Garden near Edinburgh to meet some of the veterans who are benefiting from spending time there. Now, the Linburn Walled Garden is on the estate of Sight Scotland veterans, who we'll be having a conversation with later on in another episode. And the garden has been transformed by Serenians.
But before all that, we hear from Callum Connolly from Rock to Recovery about his own mental health journey and how he struggled adapting to life after the armed forces. Just to make you aware, this episode does contain reference to mental ill health.
Rock to Recovery is a non-clinical organisation that offers one-to-one coaching for veterans serving and their families. My name is Callum. I'm 32 years old now. Former Royal Marine. I joined the Royal Marines at 16 years old. I come from a very broken background. Single mum with a stepdad's abusive. I was chucked out and made homeless at 14, so I'd done a lot of sofa surfing around friends' houses. I didn't want to waste my life doing something and not experiencing the world, so I made the decision the best escape for me really would be the Royal Marines. Yeah, it was the Royal Marines or nothing for me. There was no other plan. It was genuinely to escape and make a life for myself. Spent most of my career up at 4-5 Commando up in Arbroath. Left the Royal Marines, went into Police Scotland as a police officer, and now reside in Fife. I left the police after a short stint and a poor decline in my mental health, and eventually, after my own journey, started to work for Rock to Recovery as a referral coordinator, dealing with any veterans and their families and serving who come in to get support.
So you basically swapped one uniform for another, or did you have a bit of a break in the middle when you were transitioning?
A little bit of a break. So like many, starting a family was a decision to leave the military. So I left the military and went into the Armed Forces Careers Office for my last year from 2017 to 2018. And during that time, my wife was pregnant, and I left 2 days before my daughter Poppy was born. So perfect timing. So I had from the June till the December of that year until I joined the police. So a 6-month transition.
A new baby, new experiences. So that transition period would have been quite exciting for you.
Really exciting, to be fair. I really enjoyed that time at home. I think it's a luxury that not many get, especially transitioning from the military into civilian life. So it was nice to have that time. It was my sole purpose for leaving. It was to start a family. So being able to have that time at home and help out and learn to become a dad was really important for me.
So when you left the Royal Marines, your experience was positive, your transition?
Yeah, I had a really positive experience leaving. I did have an injury when I was leaving the Royal Marines, so there was a little bit of an edge to, I wasn't able to keep as fit as I was. There wasn't a requirement for it, but I wasn't able to do as much fitness and things that I was maybe eventually realising that I was using as a coping mechanism anyway throughout my life.
You've left one of the world's most elite fighting forces, you've had a baby, and you've joined the police.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of a different path than many would maybe take, but really enjoyable to start off with. So the police was, I thought, would be a very similar transfer. Another uniform, a discipline, which is what I enjoyed. I went from school to the Royal Marines, now into another service, so I was always used to being told what to do. I didn't mind that little bit of discipline, routine, and structure, and that's what I sort of craved after the 6-month period of leaving. I needed that. So yeah, just a bit of a darker uniform and definitely a bit of a different job role.
And how did you find your time in the police?
Going through the college I really enjoyed, and I think this is something that with a lot of veterans, we love to learn. It's pretty much what a military career is. You learn, you implement what you learn, you're praised for it, it becomes your skill, you move on to the next thing. It's how you get promoted, it's how you get through courses. So going through the college, I really enjoyed. I was learning something new, I was thriving in that learning environment. I had a lot of experience from a young age, from my job within the Marines, that I was quite confident in what I was doing and my own abilities. I'd learned so much throughout my time within the Royal Marines. So I think it wasn't until, I think for a lot of us, when it becomes a bit more of a day-to-day job, you know what you're doing, that the insecurities and the parts that you don't enjoy as much present itself a bit more.
And how long were you in the police force?
2 years in total. But during that time, so when I talked about the mundane part of the job, when it just becomes life, I started my own decline in mental health. I found it really difficult to build a routine in fitness, which was primarily what my life was controlled around within the Royal Marines, is that you had to be physically fit to do your job. So as soon as I wasn't able to go out and go for a run and clear my head, I was tired a lot. I was stuck on a shift routine where it was 6 on, 4 off, but I was coming on to my 4 off after night shifts, but trying to make the most of time with my daughter. So, I would have less sleep so I could have a life. But it was so controlled around that shift that I started to find that I was starting to decline. Not that I noticed it, others noticed it in me. It took me quite a while to realise, but I started to struggle more with my sort of emotions, I'd say. Anger sort of become quite intolerable. Always waiting for people to say and do things I knew they were going to say and do, just so I could be angry about it, obsessed with it, stew over it. And then because I was like that, I would then isolate myself and be quite depressive when isolated. So a lot of behaviour and emotion that was never associated in any part of my previous career, but was now presenting itself daily. So I made the decision, after going through a bit of a process through the GP to get a bit of support, that my environment was contributing massively to my mental health. And so I made that decision to leave the police. But at that time, that was when I was going through rupture recovery myself for support and was starting to come out the other end of it in a better place. So decision making had a lot less emotion attached to it, and my understanding was a little bit different. A better version of me to deal with things better moving forward.
You mentioned there that people around you had recognised that your mental health was declining and things were changing. What was the timescale before you yourself had that realisation and thought, okay, I need to address this and look at this?
I'd probably say about 12 months. Right. It took me about 12 months in the harsh reality of my partner saying, I'm going to go and stay with my parents for a little bit, and just to give you a bit of space. Probably a bit fed up with trying to tell me that something needed to change, stop being like that, it's silly, your behaviour is unacceptable at times. That it wasn't until I thought, well, yep, on you go, I can do with that time myself, I'm a grown man, I can deal with it, that the harsh reality for me hit, that change was needed. I was just slowly deteriorating. I wasn't cracking on and getting on with it, the old military saying. I was just slowly deteriorating, and the next thing would come along and tip the balance. So about 12 months was I need to do something, because this is a pretty miserable way of life.
And how did you find the service you got from the GP when you'd approached them?
I had a really understanding doctor who'd had experience working with military before, and had understanding of my background, which was really helpful. It was really comforting. I went through that process, was told it was complex PTSD, depression and anxiety, and started on antidepressants, which wasn't a route I wanted to take, but was a route I knew if it took the edge off of how I currently felt, then would be beneficial for me. I was, like I said, at that harsh reality that anything is a positive, and I don't know what works until I try it.
And how long were you with the NHS before you found Rock to Recovery, and how did you find Rock to Recovery?
Yeah, so Rupture Recovery offers one-to-one non-clinical coaching intervention. It's a very different approach, maybe a more proactive learning-based way of working on mental health or any forms of stress. You don't need to have a clinical diagnosis. You don't have to have been through any forms of clinical help prior. You reach out, you get support, and the way that support works is maybe a little bit different than what people expect or have maybe experienced in the past. So like I said, it's more learning based, trying to change your understanding. Change the understanding, it will change the meaning of it. And if you change the meaning of it, you won't pour so much emotion into it. So yeah, it's a very different, more proactive learning way of working on mental health. I'd been with the GP for a while. I'd went through the process of, if you don't feel that you're managing, come back up the dosage. So inevitably that happens because nothing was changing. And that's what I was seeking. I was seeking change. I wasn't, wanting to sort of keep ticking over and upping the dosage of my meds. So inevitably I'd upped the dosage of my meds for a while. Wasn't really gaining much change. It had some other effects on me. I started to gain a bit of weight. So I started to lose confidence in myself and my own ability in other areas. So I just wanted to feel understood. Although I felt understood from a GP and he was really caring and understanding, because he didn't come from a forces background, it was something I craved. I just wanted somebody to understand me a little bit better. Reaching out to friends wasn't really a thing that my social circle done, especially not through my era, because it was so dominated around Afghanistan that, that wasn't a thing for us. So I had a Google Royal Marines mental health help and was quite fortunate that Rupture Recovery come up. I then sent in an email saying that I wasn't feeling too great, I was struggling a bit, and if there was any support I could receive. I received an email back almost instantly saying, let me know when you're free for a call. I said, yep, as soon as I put my daughter to bed, I'll be free around 9 o'clock, which now I know in this job, 9 o'clock is a late one for us and can be quite late to be taking a call, as in depth as it was. So Charlie from Rupture Recovery gave me a call at 9 o'clock at night. I'd paced my garden for about an hour and a half, bleeding my heart out of how I was feeling, how well I wasn't doing, and reassured me that change is possible. Set me up with a coach, Malcolm, over at Napier University. And within maybe 10 days, I was speaking to Malcolm to work on change. And that was my journey into Rupture Recovery from there. Sometimes when we talk, we start to understand how we feel ourselves and we have our own understanding of what it is maybe going on. We sort of soul search a little bit. And I think that's why some conversations are really important, as long as it's followed up by good, meaningful support.
And there's always a talk about resilience. People in the military have a high level of resilience and it's a positive thing. I think also it can be quite a negative thing because you battle on and struggle on a lot longer than you necessarily need to.
Yeah, I think we're so in a mindset that we have to crack on, keep your head down. If you're busy, you don't have time to think about the negative. And with that, I think we lose the sort of knowledge that change is possible. It's sort of, that's the way I've been taught it, that's the way I'm going to do it, that's the way the world works. There's no swaying away from that. You sort of become quite stubborn in your own understanding of the world. And I do think that plays quite a negative part. And I think this is why Rupture Recovery's approach, the non-clinical coaching, it was learning. Let's say we love to learn, that was the approach that we needed, because it gives you a little bit more accountability of yourself and teaches you the ways that you can then manage yourself. And I think that brings back the positive part of the resilience, that change is possible, but you're in control of that change. But we found that the expense of a veteran's mental health to their family was quite large. There was a lot of struggles that come from that. They tend to be the ones on the front line dealing with them, if you like. The family members were quite overlooked by a lot of different organisations or the military themselves for serving. So we offered a lot of that support, and they get the exact same level of support as what the veteran or serving member does.
Although you're with yourself, you didn't have to seek support for your mental health while you were serving. A lot of the veterans that you'd be speaking to and working with, they probably had gone through that side of things, the military service, the support. How do you think that compares to what Rupture Recovery does? I mean, are you aware of changes? Is it getting better?
We have noticed an increase in serving, and these have started to come from the MOs and the doctors on camp. And I think the reasoning behind that is that sometimes externalising the support for many works better for them because it doesn't affect them in their current roles, it doesn't affect them in their job. It's like having a personal trainer for fitness. It's a choice. You will only gain the change if you put the work in. And as soon as you know what you're doing and you've built a routine, then you wouldn't go to a personal trainer because it's part of your life. So that's probably the best way I'd explain the way the coaching works and how it works so well for so many that are in these jobs and roles that they don't want their mental health to affect them. And that's probably the largest one we see with serving, is that, they don't want to be taken out of the role. They don't want to, be non-deployable, because these are a lot of the things that keep them ticking over and keep them proactive and keep them enjoying the job as well.
What advice would you give to veterans now in Civvy Street that, maybe listening to this and thinking, I can see things there that Callum's mentioned to myself. What advice would you give them?
I'd always say you don't know what works until you try it. As soon as we start to have these internal arguments with ourselves about how we are, how we behave, how we react, I'm not going to be like that next time, I'm not going to let these things bother me, but it's so easy to snap back to that behaviour. That's when it tends to become a problem. So it's better to attempt to work on change sooner rather than later before you need to hit that harsh reality. And it doesn't always have to be service related either. I think there's such a massive concentration on that stress has to be gained from service to get help from an organisation that primarily works with servicemen and women, that it's not always down to service. None of mine was. I would have loved to have turned around and pointed the finger and say it's because of my time out in Afghanistan, it's because of this part of my career, it's because of this deployment. It wasn't. A lot of it was learnt behaviours from childhood, the normal stresses we all have growing up, school, relationships, career changes, and even just that enormity of leaving. I think a lot of us, especially as veterans, don't realise the enormity of leaving. We have to become a civvy when, for the large part of our service, we say we don't like civvies, but we've then to become one. You've got to create new relationships, fix broken ones, pay bills, earn money, get a job, which are maybe a lot of the parts of it you won't enjoy as much. So, it's really important to reach out and keep on top of our mental health. We've probably spent a large part of our career concentrating on physical health, and we can manage and cope well with our physical health, but it's unfortunate that there's not more education around mental health and our own understanding, our own self-awareness, and this is something that there's always a positive of learning that.
It's that old adage, isn't it? If you break a finger or your leg, you go to the doctor and, they put it in a cast and you get better. We need to have that same approach with your mental health, So someone wants to get in touch with Rock to Recovery. What's the best way to do that, and what should they expect? What would their journey look like?
Yeah, so we have a support phone number and a support email covered from 8 o'clock till 8 o'clock. We're not a 24-hour, we're not a crisis service, but, someone will answer the phone or get back to you pretty soon. So, if somebody emails us in, they don't need to go into anything with us. They don't need to sell themselves. All we do is explain about what it is Rock to Recovery provides. We then get some details off them to then get them a date and time with a coach. We have quite a quick turnaround time for response. If somebody called me today and said they were struggling, they'd probably be speaking to a coach at some point next week. So we're sort of 1 to 10 days if they're working online, which we can do if they're remote. Or we do have coaches dotted around the country who can work face-to-face as well. So, for example, in Edinburgh, we've got 2 coaches who work at Napier University.
And I appreciate that, if everyone's different. On average, how long do you think you would work with a veteran?
On average, people have anywhere sort of between 3 to 5 sessions, maybe around about 6 hours worth of coaching. It is a free service for them. There is no limit to it either. As long as if they are gaining positive change, we'll support that. So that's maybe something we work a little bit different. We can't tell anybody that they're better, only they can tell us that. What we will try to do is keep as much independence there as possible. We'll give them a session. We'll check in with them a little bit after, maybe a couple of days after the weekend, see how they got on, and then book them in for their next one. So it's sort of a one session keeps rolling as long as they ask for it. They've got their homework to do, so they are expected to go and implement what they're learning.
I've spoken to veterans that have, worked with Rock to Recovery, and they've been down other channels that didn't work for them. The impact that you guys have had on their life has been incredible, and the feedback has always been very positive, and it's that whole learning experience that they go through themselves with you, and I think that has a really profound impact on them.
Yeah, and I think it gives them that independence back, and that resilience we go back to, that change is possible, but you're in control of creating that change. They can teach you, but ultimately if you don't want to change, you won't change. So that's what they're trying to get through to them, is that I can help you, I can give you the tools to coach yourself, but you have to put the work in, you have to graft for it. There's only so long you can tell yourself you'll be fine, you'll crack on, you'll get on with it. But if it's affecting all those around you, it's not selfish to stop, invest some time into yourself, because doing so, you'll be in a better place for all those close to you and all those around you.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Callum. It's been really, really insightful. I've really enjoyed listening to your story and hearing more about Rock to Recovery.
Perfect, thanks for having me.
I feel like Callum's someone that I've spoken to a lot professionally, and it's really nice to actually hear a wee bit about his background and a bit more about his story. It must have been really interesting for you, Richard, to spend that time with him.
It was really interesting, and so honest. And the thing that Callum comes across, as you'll have heard there, he talks very well, open and honest about his experiences. And I was particularly taken back by the fact that when he mentioned about being diagnosed with PTSD, in some respects he wishes that PTSD, he could have said it came from his time in Afghanistan, but it didn't. It was childhood trauma. And I think a lot of people don't realise that you think PTSD and you automatically think it was something that happened in service. And it was literally like swapping one uniform for another. And we see that a lot with veterans. They come out of the military and they go and get another job, be in the prison service or the police, or they need that routine, that discipline almost. And I think when this Callum proved there, that sometimes when you don't have that or the time to keep your physical health up, that's when the issues start to materialise and come forward a bit more. Yeah,
and I suppose part of that transition to Civvy Street is being able to create that motivation for yourself, I suppose, perhaps, where you've not got that hierarchy dictating to you that this is, you need to be going to the gym or whatever it might be to maintain that physical health, that then on Civvy Street that you've not got someone sort of telling you to do that, I suppose, and that must be part of the challenge of that transition. I think to hear someone saying they actually left because they wanted to spend that time with their family it's really great to hear. It's really positive, especially to hear a dad saying that as well. I think that's really important.
Without a doubt.
So one thing that Callum brought up is the fact that it wasn't him that noticed his mental decline. It was actually his partner and his family that noticed it first. And I think that's something that's picked up on in our next interview. Is that right?
It is, yeah. So I was able to have a chat with Charlie Marnow from the Defence Garden Scheme. And I think you'll find here a very interesting story and experience to tell.
I'm Charlie Marnow. I'm the Operations Manager for the Defence Garden Scheme. The programme will deal with the social, cognitive, physical and emotional side of life. If you look at our logo, it is Spoke of a Way, and the hub of the wheel is where we deliver our 10-week programme in. And the Spoke Gardens are smaller gardens outside of that. That is just a collection of veterans and family that create a smaller garden and a somewhere to go to.
And how did you get involved with Defence Garden Schemes?
Really strange, because at a particular time, which I'm sure we'll go on to, but the job I was doing at the time, this job then popped up. My wife said to me, "Why don't you try that?" And I said, "No, I'll never get that." And lo and behold, I got the job. Started out as the Northern Ireland coordinator, and then it was Northern Ireland and Scotland, and now, as I say, the operations manager for DGS. And it just came completely out of the blue. I didn't go looking for it. It was thrown at me by my wife.
So when you're getting busier and busier, you can blame her.
Absolutely.
So how long did you serve for?
I'd done 22 years. So I joined in 86. And my service, majority of my service was in Northern Ireland. I lived in Northern Ireland, served in Northern Ireland, except for a year which I spent out in Sierra Leone, West Africa. As I say, the majority of my service has been here. And I finished in 2007, and that was through ill health, really.
And what drove you to join the military?
Well, growing up, as I did through all the troubles, and all you seen every day was Land Rovers and soldiers, and everywhere you went, it was just like normal life. You know what I mean? And how it come about was basically that many of my mates were joining up. It was a wee bit like the PALS battalions that we would have known from the First World War, And the next thing you're within all your mates that you went to school with, and some relatives and all sorts,
So would you say it was an enjoyable time for you?
I enjoyed it. Now, there's some very, very tough times, absolutely, some extremely tough times. But as you will hear from many people, you will have met people who you will be friendly with for the rest of your life, because of the experiences that you went through, and we've maintained that. Even a phone call of one particular guy will ring up weekly, just to make the contact again, and vice versa. But I don't think you'll get any other connection like that in any other walk of life. I would trust him with my life, and did trust him with my life. Yeah.
So 22 years, Charlie. That's a good innings to have.
It is, and it would have went on, because I went from private soldier to regimental sergeant major, and then commissioned to the rank of captain. And just as that was all happening, I took ill. We were out for a company run, and all of a sudden the world just went round on my head, and I hit the floor like a ton of bricks. And cut a long story short, I ended up in front of a neurologist, and he asked all sorts of questions. And my wife very quickly turned around and, right, what is this? He very quickly said, oh, it's multiple sclerosis. And obviously that then ended my career. And the knock on from that, for quite a long period of time, I had a lot of mental health issues, and obviously physical health issues. But to all of a sudden, my career come to an end, whereas I was looking forward to a full career, that had just come to an end, and you've got to leave all that behind, and that caused me a lot of mental health issues. That was probably one of my biggest struggles, because I didn't know whether I was going to end up in a wheelchair, or what was going on. Thankfully, I didn't, but I said that was a huge struggle, probably the biggest struggle for everything that I've experienced throughout my time serving. That has been my biggest mountain to climb, to be absolutely honest with you.
You'll have had so many thoughts going on in your head at that period of time as well. I mean, did you find that you got the support that you required?
Through the NHS, I honestly could not have asked for better. In every way, I was supported, helped along. But of course, by that stage, by the time the diagnosis had come back, it was too late. I had gone. And it come at a time whenever our regiment, the Home Service Battalion of the Royal Irish Regiment, was being disbanded, because that was linked into the signing of the Good Friday Agreement. So I think we were sort of the casualty of that signing. So it was just mad goings on. It was a very, very difficult time. So military wise, because in our battalion alone we had almost 1,000 soldiers to get back into Civvy Street and get on with their next career. So my sort of resettlement just more or less went by the wayside. We were just too busy, and just too many other things to be doing.
Very hectic sort of transition period for everyone.
Yeah, and that added to my whole problem with my mental health, I think, as well, because I was standing on the other side, as a lot of people have done, and gone, oh, I'm now a blooming civvy. What am I doing now?
And were you aware your mental health was taking a dip, or was it something that your wife noticed before you did? My
wife certainly noticed it, that's for sure. And I did notice it. And this sound really weird. I noticed it, but I didn't know how to deal with it. I suppose in many ways, maybe I didn't notice it. You know what I mean? I just carried on going. I knew I wasn't in a good space, but did I do anything to improve that? In the early stages, no, because I couldn't, because I was trying to deal with my physical health. And to be honest, the first thing that, apart from all the different medications that I was getting to balance my MS, a double vision with it and everything, But the thing that got me, or helped me, and my wife identified it before I identified it, was me getting outside, even just getting out into the garden and trying to get away from cabin fever. And yes, spent a few times in my mouth and nose, absolutely. But just getting outside, she noticed me coming back into the house in a better place. Because I've no doubt it was very difficult to live with. I've no doubt in that.
So gardening helped yourself. DGS obviously looks at, gardening for veterans. How does it work? If I was a veteran, I'm thinking about gardening, it might not be the first thing that comes to mind.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I am no big gardener, but I love getting out into my garden, and I do a lot more gardening now than I ever did. But it is, for me, and it's only my experience, it is getting outside in the fresh air, under the sun, whenever we see the sun come out. We're that sort of beast, we feel better getting outside and being able to stretch our arms and do a few bits and pieces outside. And it doesn't matter whether it's 10 minutes or a couple of hours. That for that 10 minutes, you will feel better. If you're, isolating inside your house, them walls keep coming in and coming in and coming in. And we have heard that so many times. But for me, getting outside was really, really important. And that's what we find all the time with our 10-week courses. As I say, the fresh air, the light, connecting with nature, hearing nature, smelling nature, touching nature. There's all that sort of side of it. And what we have found, it really gives people, again, the 10-week course, or even just being outside, gives you the time and space to get away from all the madness, the emails, the buzzes and whistles from your phone and all that there. You can set that to one side inside the house and get out into nature and really enjoy it. As I say, you don't have to know all the name of the plants and flowers and all that. It is just appreciating, and I do now really appreciate the beauty of nature. And if I thought of that there maybe 20 years ago, people would have looked at me as if I wasn't totally right in the head. But I absolutely get it now. It is that connectivity to nature that has certainly helped me, there's no doubt. But again, our courses and our hub locations and our spoke locations, because we work on a hub and spoke idea, gives people the time and space to think things calmly through in their head. But especially the spoke locations, it gives people to connect with other veterans. The banter, is fantastic. It is that camaraderie that you just cannot get away from, and we yearn it. We really do, and that's what makes the difference. I see it on a regular basis with our spoke gardens, and some of the guys and gals going into there, whereas the ordinary civilian on the street just doesn't get that level of connectedness. And that's as important as anything, because gardening might not be your thing. And we have guys that go to the spoke gardens and just sit there and have a fag, have a brew, and that's equally as important as the rest of the guys doing the gardening. And that's what it's all about. It's not all about gardening. It's about being connected that makes the difference, and giving people the time and space.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good point there, because initially you said it's a 10-week course that they go on. I mean, you think of it as a course that can sometimes, just the wording alone can sometimes sound a little bit daunting potentially. But obviously you mentioned there it's a lot more about camaraderie and what have you. And not everyone has to be involved in the garden, you said.
Absolutely. I like to try and get away from the word course, better using the word program, because immediately course to us, for the majority of us, it is pressure. It is, it's career stuff. I prefer the word program. And it is only one day a week. It's only for 4 hours. We have a horticulturalist there and a horticultural therapist. And what they will do is, if you were to break the program up into thirds, the first third is about you with your struggles, and you literally put a bit of compost into the tray, put some seed in, water, and a bit of heat, and you nurture that along. So the intervention from the horticultural therapist, and that intervention, and the people on the program, and that intervention can be group therapy, one-to-ones with the therapist, and mindfulness. Now, if you told me mindfulness 20 years ago, I would definitely have laughed at you as I was standing there as Regimental Sergeant Major. Definitely laughed at you. But I absolutely get it. And I use it quite often myself. And then the second part of the program is about you growing, sorry about the pun, but you are growing as a person because of those interventions. And then the third part is about progression. What are you going to do after the program? And we've all been on our military courses where you just fall off the other end, or even civilian courses where you fall off the other end. And, nobody bothers with you, but we like to capture you. What are you going to do? Are you going to go back into your home and isolate and put that bottle of vodka to your head? Or actually, are you going to take up a skill? And it might be gardening, but as I said, gardening might not be your thing. It could be something you done 20 years ago. It could be something you take up new. It doesn't matter as long as you're doing something instead of going into the house and isolating. And above all, it's a basic gardening course or program. But it really works, and I have seen it in all our programs. You see them on day 1, and you see them on day 10, and you see the massive change in all of not just their pallor, they're laughing, they're smiling, they're really enjoying it, and they've picked up a numerous amount of skills on that pathway. So, it's a great honour for me to be able to see that. And we are very blessed with our horticulturalists and horticultural therapists with DGS. There's no doubt in that. And what they produce for the guys is absolutely amazing.
New friendships made on every course.
Oh, absolutely. And like the other thing we like to do is create a WhatsApp group for them. And we have seen it. They will have told us we don't get involved in it because that is for that group. And, they will pipe up and say, I'm struggling here. And before you know it, somebody's at their door. Right, let's go for a brew, a bit of crack. And it's that support. It is massive.
So if I'm sitting listening to this and I'm thinking, I quite like the idea of this, I want to give this a go. How many courses do you run a year and over what locations?
Generally, our bottom line is we run a spring and an autumn program. And as long as we have the funding to run it, we have been running programs at Linburn in Scotland.
So what do you wish people in the sort of general public, what do you think they'd better understand about veterans?
I think we need to be better at it as well. I think people need to appreciate the skill set that our veterans bring to the community. We probably don't integrate as much as we should be into the community. But it doesn't matter whether, and I speak army-wise, it doesn't matter whether you're a private soldier or whether you're a general. You will bring a skill set that is very, very special to the community because you will act, move, think very much quicker and better than the general public. But we also have to appreciate what the general public bring to the game.
What would you say to a veteran who's thinking of getting involved with DGS?
Please come along. Please come along and, at the outset, come along to one of our spoke gardens and get involved in the community within the spoke garden. As I've said before, you don't need the garden. Just come along for the crack. And if you want to get involved, get involved. It's all about camaraderie. But certainly, if you want a new skill set, that's the place to come. Generally, you will get somebody in these gardens, in the spoke gardens. They're well skilled in the gardening sort of life. But, come along because what you will get is fantastic. Camaraderie is amazing. And the banter is just, it's like going back to the old days in the billet. You know what I mean? It's just fantastic. And I truly mean that. It's not just because of DGS. We find that in these gardens, it's that time and space to sit there. You may go to part of the garden that you just want to be quiet in. That's fine. Nobody questions it. You do what you want to do and enjoy the space and time.
And we should mention as well that it's available for people with all abilities.
Absolutely. That's right. If you can't garden, we don't care. Come along.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today, Charlie?
Please, if there's any veterans are out there, please experience the Defence Garden Scheme programme because we see regularly life-changing activities at these gardens and lives being changed. There's no doubt about it, and it's a safe environment. I am blessed to be able to see them at the other end of the programme and see what change it has made in them. It's massively uplifting. It certainly helps my mental health. You know what I mean? It really does.
Talk about getting hit by By a lot
Yeah.
all at once. I mean, one minute you're in your prime, you're a captain, and the next minute you've been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and you're all getting pretty much made redundant.
Yeah, it's a lot for anyone to take, isn't it? And I suppose that would really test anybody's coping mechanisms. And I suppose that speaks to the fact that Charlie had to find something new, really, to kind of to get through that challenge and deal with those issues that he was experiencing.
Yeah, definitely. And yet again, it comes back to it was his wife that noticed the differences.
Yeah.
That noticed the subtle changes.
Yeah.
I think as well, he was lucky in the respects that he had that community coming from that village and how they all signed up together. And he, as you said there, he still speaks to the same chap every week.
Yeah.
I think having that connection really helps.
Yeah, and it's what we see time and time again, isn't it? That the community is actually just so vital for our well-being and for our mental health, really, isn't it? And that kind of power of nature for our well-being and our mental health is something that I know we'll talk about in our next feature, isn't it, Richard?
Absolutely. A while back, I was lucky enough to visit the beautiful Limburn Wall Garden in West Lothian for their annual open day.
So the Walled Garden is a partnership project between homelessness charity Cyrenians and Sight Scotland veterans, as well as other Scotland's Veterans Wellbeing Alliance partners. It's designed to be a safe space for not only veterans but their families and the wider community to take part in gardening, growing and other wellbeing activities, as well as just simply spending time outside.
I feel that it's gave me my life back, if that makes any sense. Because I was in a bad place, and slowly but surely, with baby steps, I'm getting into the good place with the help of Limburn Garden,
So I've just shown up here at the Wall Garden at Limburn on the Wilkeston estate. There's an event on today with a few veterans organisations and veterans, just a place really to get people to integrate, let everyone know about each other's services, what's available, and most important of all, just to make sure that people have time and reflect and understand and know a little bit more about the garden. The garden's been here a few years, I believe, but it's really been under a lot of development over the last couple of years. Oh, well, I've just spotted a spaniel, sorry, there's dogs here as well, that makes it even better. I think without any further ado, let's go and speak to some people and see what they're doing here today and what they think of the space.
Hello, my name is Laura Mulcahy. I'm the Senior Wellbeing Garden Coordinator here at Limburn Wall Garden. So as you come into the garden, it's a wall garden, 4 walls that makes you feel safe and secure. We've got a wee hut where we have lots of tea, coffee, always ready for a chat, so feel free to come. We've got a Grade 2 listed sundial right in the centre, which is a really shiny bit of history, and it was restored in the last couple of years by a veteran who restores war graves, so it's now a nice shiny pin. As you come away from that, you get the scent of sweet peas going up wee teepees and a load of lupins. So if you like lupins in various different colours, here's the place to come. In the autumn last year, we planted 50 kg of yellow daffodils. So in the spring, it was a wash of yellow. And the nursery kids that come along every day, is their favourite bit. They get lost in the maze itself. And I've got to be honest, when their little heads are at the same height as all the flowers, it's the cutest thing ever. So yeah, that's what's happening in the garden.
So I've got a little advantage in this garden because I saw it 5.5 years ago when Cyrenians first took over the lease here. And I cannot believe the transformation that I see in front of me today. I mean, it's great that you've got pass down to make it accessible for everybody. One thing I noticed that's looking a little bit more covered up than it was last time I was here was the beehive. Have you still got the bees or have they gone somewhere else?
I do have bees here at the garden. I do have a naughty bee hive that is in the Pentlands and had to get requeened. But the bees that we have at the minute here are very nice and chill, thank God.
And I noticed you've got a lot more sort of, it's hard to describe really, isn't it, the transformation, if you haven't seen it before and what it is now, but you've got a lot more open spaces for people to sit down and have quiet chats together. How important is that for you in the space in the garden, do you think?
It's really important because the garden can be used by a lot of people in many different ways. If you want to have a bit of fun and relax, there's so many areas now in the garden that you can just take yourself away. So if you're doing a walk and talk with someone, or if you're just needing that bit of time away, there's pockets of the garden you can just go to and just feel very isolated from everywhere else, but in a nice, calm, safe way.
And if you had, say, 10 seconds to say to everybody, why should they come to the Limburn Wall Garden?
The garden is just the place that it happens. What I've found with veterans and other people that come use the garden for their own mental health is that you start a project and you're caring for something outside of yourself, and that in itself helps you. So you'll start out with a wee seed, and over the course you'll see it changing. It's not being killed off, and even if it is killed off, you just start again. It's a seed, it's a plant, it'll grow again. And I think that in itself is a beautiful metaphor. So even if things go wrong, you can start again and still bloom at the very end. What's really important for myself is, like, when volunteers kind of are regular and come, I like them to feel like they've got ownership of something. So, like, for instance, the kitchen garden that we're in now, this was the thought of one of the volunteers. When you give autonomy and empowerment to someone, they do the best of their ability. They spend a lot longer in here than they would do normally. They feel attached to the garden, and it also just, like, they can be really proud of the project that they started. They thought about, started, finished, and then they see other people enjoying that. In itself, it's a full circle. Those kind of projects are littered throughout this garden. So I suppose if you've got a project, or you even want to just have a think of something, here is a place that you can make that happen.
I'm not particularly a green-fingered person, as you would say, but I have to say, coming out here, I feel rejuvenated. There's something about it, and I can imagine if you are struggling with your mental health, or just life in general, I mean, what a great place to come, just to feel rejuvenated and just get that sort of extra spark, and just, digest what's been going on and clear the mind. It's brilliant.
I think even for myself, to be honest, there's some days you don't want to get out of bed, but then you kind of force yourself, and then I get through the door and I'm like, sure, yeah, it's actually all right. So, like, it's not just for the veterans themselves, it's the workers too.
Right, my name's Clark Borland. I was in the Royal Engineers. I done 6 years of good service for me, but when I came out, I struggled with PTSD. Went to different places to try and get help, couldn't get any, and ended up going to Veterans First in Edinburgh, and they, from there, guided me on to the Thistle Foundation and the Limburn Garden, where I've been really self-medicating without tablets. It's the feel-good factor. I've never been into gardening ever, but to come to something like this, meeting people, the garden never looks the same twice. It's just, it's helping me in life in general, you know what I mean? It's just the freedom where you can't really hear cars, you can hear the bees flying by your ears, the birds, woodpecker on that tree over there. We come down here and we just try and make the place more homely, and for disabled, blind, because they've got all the touch as well as the smells, just the general feeling of the place, you know what I mean? It's the feel good factor, you know. I was in a bad place before I found about Limburn, Veterans First and Thistle Foundation. I was a lost soul. I didn't know what to do, didn't know where to turn. The doctors would tell me it's a military problem. Nobody was willing to help. But now that I'm here, you know, when you come in the gate there, everybody helps you out, guides you in the right direction. I can sometimes pass that on to other people. As I said, I don't like to talk about it that much because the bad things that happened. And I do struggle with kind of flashbacks and things like that. So this is a forget place. You can come and forget about the world and be in nature, you know what I mean? When I actually came here the first time, I drove up, parked the car, and I was actually going to go back in the car again. I didn't know what I was coming to. I didn't know if it would be good for me, bad for me. I really didn't know. But then I just bit the bullet and came in, and it's been the best thing ever because Laura, I've had a lot of guidance, you know, making you feel at ease, making you feel welcome and part of the whole place, you know. So as I said, it's been a real eye-opener for me. This is my safe place, you know. It's hard to explain when somebody's not been in the forces, a safe place. You think your house would be a safe place, but your house can be, your own demons are in your own house. Whereas here, it's just different in a nice way. I feel that it's gave me my life back, if that makes any sense. So it's working for me. It works better than tablets. You know, going to the medication, going to the doctors, it's better than that. So I'm just going to keep coming and doing the good work. And it's nice to be in a good place. Because you've got to have something bad to know when you've got something good. And this is great.
My name is Mary Brownlee and I am from Dalkeith.
My name is Maria Helen Combe. I'm from the Philippines. My husband is a veteran from Dalkeith.
My name is Anna Rutherford. I enjoy coming here. I've done a gardening course here as well.
So what do you think the garden means to yourself and, you know, veterans and people in general?
Well, me, I think it gives them a sense of serenity and can meeting up with other veterans that's maybe had a hard time.
This is a very fresh environment, and the setting is natural, so it is very good for the old people, especially the veterans, to come here and relax sometimes and then have some coffee and go around the plants. You will be relieved of your stress.
Yeah. Well, you find out with the veterans, some have good memories, some have bad memories. And it's a place that the veterans can all come together and talk about their experiences. And at that, they're getting the quietness, the stillness, the serenity of being in the garden. And it makes a difference to them. They have post-traumatic stress and that, and it relieves that, but it gives them a wee purpose.
So, in the Well Garden, saw a lot of new faces today. Seen these bunch of chaps in front of me. Realised from their accents they're not from the East Coast, from the West Coast, some of them. So I thought we'd just grab a few of them and just ask them, you know, what they think of the garden, what brought them here today, and what organisation you're with.
Hello, I'm Jim and I'm part of the Community Veterans Support Group based in Govan in Glasgow in the Pearce Institute. And we'd heard a lot about this garden and had never actually been here or seen it. So we've come through today to have a look at it, and for what we've seen so far, it's a fantastic concept, and I think there should be more places like this for veterans.
My name's Alec. I work for the Veteran Service in Govan Pearce Institute, and the Walled Garden is brilliant, and I've never been here before, and it's an eye-opener.
Yeah, hi, I'm Stephen, ex-Mariner, West Coast of Scotland, but was living down south for the last sort of, 20 years on and off, and come back to Glasgow, found myself homeless, and touched in with these guys, got a lot of support, and recently actually got my own place as well, so really love coming out here, seeing the guys, because my sort of go-to thing's to disappear, and try my best not to do that at the moment, and getting a lot of help and support, and loving this place, absolutely fantastic, love the outdoor spaces, so this is really ticks all the boxes for me. So.
Hi, I'm Pete, I'm an ex-army medic. I actually came to the centre in the Pearce Institute because of my own mental health, to be fair. I was going through a really troubled time for a long time, and the centre pretty much brought me back. If I'm honest, without the centre, I don't know where I would be today. And through the centre, we get to visit lots of other wonderful places like this, which is organised and cared for by other veterans, and you get to see what other veterans are doing and how they're getting on, and you get to experience this as well, and it's absolutely wonderful, especially, I think, for people like myself who do suffer with quite bad mental health issues. Without these guys and without the organisations, without these kind of places, a lot of boys in my situation probably wouldn't be here.
So this is the first time you've been at the garden today. They always say first impressions count. For people that are listening to this, can you just describe us a little bit what your first impressions were when you walked into the garden?
The first thing that appealed to me was the colours. You know, I started looking about and seeing all the different colours, and that put a calmness on me straight away. And then following these boys about, you could then see and touch all the flowers and plants that are about, and then you could start smelling them. So yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. It really is a wonderful place.
Even although it's quite busy, it's no noisy. There's a quiet calmness about it, and I find that totally reassuring. And I found that the other people that are involved around about the place will talk to you if you want to talk to them, whether it be other veterans that's in the place, or families of veterans, or just civilians that's come in and went to have a look. And I find that very reassuring, that it's somewhere and it feels safe. That's the thing.
I've been working as a volunteer worker with the veterans for nearly 10 years now. I never knew anything about it. When I came out, somebody told me, and I went up there and I've been there ever since. But this place is quiet. All you hear is birds singing, and there's people to talk to all the time. I've never had anything wrong with it, being in the submarine service, but brilliant just to be here and quiet.
Yeah, it's just a nice, tranquil, friendly space. And as I say, I'm an outdoors person, and this is the sort of place that if I was living close by here, I'd probably come here and just have a couple of hours to myself. And as these guys have tapped in, if you want to talk to people, there's people to talk to as well.
You've got community, you've got camaraderie as well. Everyone gets it. You've got guys from all different services here, and I know there's a couple of guys here from Submariners and subs, and I've got a few friends that were on the subs, and let's just say I think you guys are quirkier than most in the nicest possible way. But no, I think it's a great space to come, and anything that's going to bring people together and give people the opportunity to have a chat over a brew and a wet, you know what I mean, and just start the conversation. It's all about having a starting point. The hardest part is getting through that door, but when you're here and you're in the space, everything seems to just become a lot more simpler. Life becomes simpler, and it's, as I say, it's just making that first step, because the veterans are here. Everyone's here to help each other, and we just got to remember that. Like, guys, really appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with us today. The sun's still out, the tea and the coffees are sitting there. I think there's sandwiches there. Go and enjoy yourself. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
I would say the unknown is never a good place to be. But if you bite the bullet and just give it a try, if it's not for you, that's great. But I think it will be. I think it would be for you. It would be for anybody in this kind of atmosphere, environment. It's for everybody and anybody, So I would say you must go. You've got to go. And if you don't like it, don't come back. But if you do like it, happy days. You're on the road. But I do come whenever I can, and help out and do my wee bit. It's nice to give a bit back. You know what I mean? Because it's not benefiting just me, it's benefiting lots of veterans, disabled people, blind people. It's just, how can you go wrong?
That was fantastic. I loved hearing from so many of the partners about what they're up to and what's going on in the garden as well. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's the bravery of taking that first step. I mean, he mentioned it himself. He got there, he was in the car and he was almost about to turn away again. And, that happens a lot. But once you've taken that first step and you go into the garden, you wonder what the worry was about.
Yeah. And I think that's something that Laura spoke about as well. And I loved how she spoke about learning to fail in a way and practicing failing. And I think that's something we see a lot at Stand Easy as well with the drama work, is learning that it's okay to make mistakes and practicing that failure, and thinking about in the garden you've planted something, it doesn't grow, and finding a way to be like, okay, that's fine, we'll try again next year, and practicing that, I think, is a really important skill to learn, isn't it?
Definitely. And no pun intended, but nothing grows in a comfort zone. So we all, in everyday's life, we need to take ourselves out of that comfort zone.
Yeah. Thanks so much to you all for listening to New Frontiers from Scotland's Veterans Wellbeing Alliance. Thanks, of course, to all of our contributors today: Callum from Rock to Recovery, Charlie from Defence Garden Scheme, Laura from Cyrenians, and all the folks that we heard from at Linburn Walled Garden.
We really hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have, please share it with someone who you think would find it useful.
You can also help us out by rating and reviewing the podcast in your podcast app.
Have a look at the episode description for links to the organisations mentioned in this episode.
And to find out more about Scotland's Veterans Wellbeing Alliance and all the organisations supporting veterans across Scotland, visit svwa.org.uk.
New Frontiers is produced by Bespoken Media. Recording and editing is by Patrick Wallace, Katie Revel, Ailish Hunter and David Howard. The music is Something New by the Eastern Plain.
See you next time.
See you next
Bye-bye.
time. Cheers.
Produced by Bespoken Media.